Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Some of you have felt that the room is different. Just in walking in here, and you'd be right. A few hours ago, I asked you for tolerance. I ask you to open your mind for the possibility that you are more than it seems. Now you've come to this place, the final message, where you can make some decisions if you wish. And the only decision that I ask you for this night is the one that would say, there is something more that I look at. Easy. There's no commitment here, dear ones. To discover what is inside, there is no commitment. There is simply the intent to go further, and the body sees this and starts to cooperate. This is mastery. It is the way of it. It is what we have said before. Dear ones, the room is alive with energy, for there are entities here, if you want to call them entities, angelic beings, if you want to call them that. I call them family. You really don't know what you don't know. You identify things in nature, and you want to singularize them and count them the divas, the elves. The truth is they are energy that is divine. It shows itself to humans differently depending upon what the humans wish to see. It's a benevolent energy. All that is nature is benevolent to humanity. Believe it or not, there is nothing in nature that desires to hurt a human. When you walk into the forest and into the woods, you climb the mountain, what you feel is the creative source. Bring that here, in this room right now, so it can shine upon you and congratulate the human being at this time on earth. But that is what we are doing. We give you messages, and some of them are strong. And we've given in the past so many, almost pleading you to look around and see who you are. This is a message that is similar. I want you to start connecting the dots of your age. The age that is upon you, coming to you, that is after the precession of the equinoxes. The things that happen that I speak of are slow. But all of humanity has progressed in this fashion, generation after generation. Suddenly you're in a new kind of energy that allows literally for you to move past the idea that you have to die and come back to have wisdom that you've earned. You can capture it while you're here, literally. The ascension process that you have heard about all of your lives is the human being changing so much, you're actually in another life without dying. Awareness of self, transformation of your biology, becoming another person. This has been sought after by so many and is so available. There are so many spiritual beliefs that you can turn to, and it sounds so familiar. It's all the same. Find the master inside. And don't be surprised if it's you. We have spoken of this earth in a way that says things are changing. 2015 shows itself on the horizon as what we call year number 2. We use these words, shows itself on the horizon like the sun does when it rises. A new day, a new energy, and things for you to think about. All that I'm going to say, we say in a way that's not just instructional. We celebrate everything that is happening on the planet. Dear ones, you've chosen to be an old soul in the awakening energy of this age. An age that the ancients spoke of. And in that there are issues, and you know what I'm speaking of. The transformation of energies requires sacrifice and tolerance. And the sacrifice we speak of is the sacrifice that you would have of the old energy. Move through it. We have asked you not to despair on what you see on the planet which is dark and which hurts your heart. We have told you to hold strong because the light eventually will win. I want to remind you of what we told you some years ago. If you were to pass this marker, that human nature itself would begin to shift. That those things which are dark and hiding would come out. I told you that there would be a final battle, not of humanity, but between dark and light. And you are absolutely seeing this right now. Can the evil get even more evil? And the answer is yes, and you will see it. And it will galvanize, cement, put together, epiphanize civilization to know what they want and what they don't want. The dark is ignorant. It does not see light. It does not see integrity. It does not see the planning. All it sees is itself, and in a way that it is ignorant of what it's doing. For in its desire to create the most fear it can imagine, with the worst things that it can think of, it's going to create its own defeat. And that's what I want to talk about. Things are changing. It is changing everywhere, dear one. And just for these few moments, I want you to see a larger picture. There is such a thing as old energy and new energy. The old energy, dear ones, is what you grew up in. Business as usual. I don't think I have to explain this. There are certain attributes of human nature you say will never change. And you see them everywhere around you in large organizations. The way of it, you say. This is changing. And we've told you in the past it is. So we're going to start with this. Have you seen any odd things, sudden shifts in world leadership? Are you able to identify old energy versus new? Has anything happened that surprises you? Have any of the types of coalitions, some coming apart and some coming together, that would change things? And you've seen them and you can't even understand why. What you are seeing right now in world leadership is the beginning of a new kind of consciousness, and it clashes with itself. When you have many cultures on the planet having their own histories, moving from an old energy to a new energy, some will be faster than others. And in the process, you will see these kinds of clashes. Now, I'm not going to name them, but you can see them on the news. There are those who are starting to understand the oneness of all. And yet at the same time, there are some leaders who are trying to revert to the old ways in hopes that they will keep their power. And the reason is because they are uncomfortable working in the light. You're going to see more and more of this. World leadership is shifting. It's interesting because the alliances that you have expected and have seen in the past are very old. Ever since the end, perhaps, of the Cold War, when I arrived, there has been one kind of energy and one kind of alliance, and it's starting to move away. Do not despair if you see things you don't understand. Do not see change and equate it with defeat. Do not see change and equate it with confusion. Actually, it's solution happening slowly in ways you don't expect. Congratulations, human being. The changes we told you might happen are happening. It's going to shape your politics, you know. It's going to shape those countries you can visit and cannot visit, you know. Things are shifting like they never have before. Indeed, there is no reason at the moment that is political that would allow you free trade or visitation of Cuba. What is the reasoning for it? For the men are still alive. There are those who would say they had to pass for these things to happen, and they're starting to happen anyway. There are reactions to those who don't want them to happen because they want things to stay old. And they do not want that new energy to come. The idea is it will ruin a culture. Oh, it'll change it. You'll see. But families deserve to be with families. This, dear ones, is happening at a time when I told you it could. And if you might remember the prediction, it was there. Before its time. There was no special election that would cause it. There was no death that would cause it. It happened because it was time. This is a new energy. Shocking things may take place. Another prediction in the future. Not a prediction because I am a fortune teller. Because there are things happening you don't know about. Just the seeds are being planted. And some of you will see it in this lifetime, and you will know, I told you, it's coming. And that is the reunification of North and South Korea. It makes sense, does it not? In a time when the integrity is starting to shift on this planet, that families would want to be with families in the natural way that they deserve to be, with compassion and love instead of division and hate and drama. When the old meets the new, the old will lose. And you're going to see it all over the planet, some faster, some not, and some with resistance, and some not. Congratulations. The difficulty of the planet and all the things you're experiencing is because of what you've done. Did you notice the entertainment industry is starting to shift? It is starting to find out what humanity wants. Very, very slowly, the industry itself will begin to morph out of what it believes is human nature and more into that which is beautiful. You're going to see fewer films like there have been in the past, that what we will call doomsday films. The theme of Earth in trouble. The theme of the Earth having gone through nuclear war. It didn't. It's not going to. And it's going to fall on the floor. No one's going to want to go to those films. There are still those in the industry who are stuck in the old energy, and you will see it by their works. And people won't like it. That's when you know there's been a shift on the planet. When you start to see what you watch change. My partner has brought it up. A new kind of entertainment that has not been present for 30 years. And that would be this. That you have selective television. No longer will you have to watch what is given to you, but you now have a choice of what you want. This is a new paradigm. And it has been created by something also that I predicted would shift humanity. When everyone can talk to everyone, there can be no more secrets. This is what you're beginning to see in a big way, and we're going to speak of that even more in a moment. Start connecting the dots. Human nature is beginning to shift. Very slowly, you can tell. In high places, in low places, there are things to look at. Congratulations for this shift, human. You sit in the chair. Can you feel loved? If you could see what I know on the other planets that have crossed this marker, what they have become, what it's like to be able to travel to any country, and you see them helping one another with their resources. You see inventions to bring them health and fresh water. You see new kinds of science that wipes away diseases that you've had for hundreds of years. It's on its way. Too slow for many. Do not despair at those who are in trouble, for when they come back, they have another chance. If you could see what I've seen, what I know, dear ones, there is so much potential in where this civilization called humanity will eventually go. And in this time, right now, you are crossing the bridge. And in that bridge there is confusion. And there is so much to sort out for yourself. For you to know what is correct and not correct. Let me tell you, the light is correct. And the things that you fear, I want to tell you, dear ones, the things that you fear, the fear has been manufactured so you'd fear. Once you fear, they won. And we have said this in the past. Look at things differently, with maturity, knowing that it's transition and not the end. We said it before. You're going to see it. Tolerance. It is starting to move. One of the things that is going to galvanize, cement, put together more tolerance is the darkness and the evil on the earth. Again, we will tell you that which is dark and evil is not mature, it is not smart, it is not intelligent, and it's creating its own demise. You're going to see alliances that are spiritual come together to fight a common enemy. Do not be shocked someday when the Muslim and the Jew are in the same place fighting the same enemy. Dear ones, it's inevitable. Bringing former enemies together to fight a larger enemy is something that is possible in the future. Put the dots together. Can you see why the blackest and most evil thing on this planet that is occurring at the moment and is the most frightening may actually be the transition the planet wants? It pulls together unlikely partners, and they stay together. They start to meet each other's families. They start to listen to the history. That's happening. Watch for it. Connect the dots and celebrate something you didn't expect. No one expected the youth of this planet to do what it's done. It's not going to be about future generations, dear ones. It's the ones who are here. For they have put together and literally invented by themselves social networking. A big word, one that we predicted, and for the first time in human history, an entire group that is young has its own identity and can speak to its own peers. That has never been the case before. Small groups after school, perhaps a phone call or letters, but never like this. And what they are collectively deciding, and you may not even know this, is they're not going to be like you. It's not subtle. They've come to a conclusion that they can walk a walk which is different than what they see. It is common for youth to be idealistic. They're going to change the world when they're 19. This is common. What is uncommon is that this group will. And the reasoning is because they come in with a different kind of consciousness. One that will not follow the leader any longer. For they have a mind which is more solid than yours was at their age. In certain ways, they have an integrity of purpose that you did not. They are wise beyond their years, and their children will be even wiser than they. Human evolution is starting. It is new. It is confusing. It's not perfect. I have a message for the young people. All those who listen to me, I am ageless. I am young. I am old. I am all that ever was, as you are. There is no time where I am. And yet the wisdom that is occurring in the youth should not be impatient. Here is my message, and it's a message that I ask adults to pass to the young people. In the best way I can, I say to the youth, think big, think beautiful and wild things like peace on earth. Think as big as you wish. But at the same time, play the old energy game with a smile. Because you eventually will be the game. Do not become impatient. Watch and then change. It makes sense. All of the things that you see that you do not like, observe so that you can change them. It is the wrong time to try to change them now. Wait. Your time will arrive, and when it does, there will be an energy that will be placed upon you that will push you to the front. And the integrity that you want for this planet will be yours. That's the message. That's world events. That's the youth of the planet. That's so many things. What about you? What about individuals? This is a harder message. We have tried to give it to you so many times in so many ways. We said to you there's a new normal, and we said expect change. We told you that nothing is going to go back the way it was. Nothing. Even those of you who are waiting for health and situations to correct themselves, it's not going to correct itself, it's going to solve and be different. This is what you deserve as the old soul. You deserve the shift that you waited for. Don't expect to return to the way it was. This is hard for a human being. For everything in you wants things to remain a certain way, and you're comfortable. So here is the challenge. No matter what your age, find the new comfortable. What does it mean? Many of you are feeling unsettled. It's the best word I have. It's just not right. They have a phrase that you're waiting for something to drop. And that is how you feel. You're not centered, you'd say. Perhaps you're uncomfortable, you'd say. And when friends ask, well, what is it? And you say, I don't know. It's just different. Can I say it? Are you ready? This may be the new normal. Can you exist in an unsettled state and make it a settled state? And the answer is yes. But it's difficult. It's not the way it was. What if the unsettled state isn't unsettled at all? What if it's simply the new normal? It's a place that is not old energy. It's a place where you're always ready to move, where shift can happen at any time, and you're all right with it. Therefore, it's not anchored in the rock like it used to be, where it won't move, and that's where you want to be. We want you to move. Therefore, you're not going to be anchored in the rock. You're going to be in a place where it is okay to be here or be there, mentally, spiritually, in order to grow. I just wanted you to think about that. What's your intuition in all these things? Innate is going to start growing in your body. Innate is the smart body. It's going to grow in ways that wants to connect to your consciousness. It's time. It's going to start now and not going to wait until you come back. Now. Part of your body wants to get a hold of you. And it only has one way. Pay attention, because this is going to make sense to about 13 of you in the room. Innate only has one way to get your attention. Being uncomfortable and pain. It's time to look. I want you to decode why this is happening. There are reasons in your life for all of the things you're experiencing, and many times innate is knocking on the door in order to break through and connect finally to you. And you will have an awareness and an awakening, literally, that will save your life. It's the new way of things. If you want to live a longer life, innate is going to have to be able to meld consciously with you so you'll know what to do. Now, some of you have already experienced this. You know what the signs are? You've decided to change what you eat. I'm talking to some people here. It's different from the way you grew up. And it's not a diet. It's a shift of your eating. And that came directly from, guess where? Innate. Finally, the cellular structure in your body is saying, don't eat this way. And is giving you choices of things you never wanted to eat before. Now you're starting to shift. Look around. Would this be tasty? Would this be nice? Some of you have gone completely opposite of the way your parents raised you. That's innate. It goes further than this. It's in all parts of life. Eventually, this is the best one. Eventually, dear ones, when you return and you have an innate which is connected to your consciousness, it will tell you who the best partner is. Won't that be good? No more testing and having a situation where it didn't work and testing again. No, the innate will say it's not about selection of the fittest. It's about integrity. It's about spiritual consciousness and togetherness and joy. An innate, and you'll know it. Oh, you'll know it. That's just a few. There are more. Dear ones, the dots are starting to be connected in Old Souls. Why you're here, what you're here for, to hold the energy and develop compassion for this planet. That's what you're doing. If you want to write a book, go ahead. If you want to be a healer, go ahead. But most of you are here to hold the energy as an old soul. And you won't even know what you're doing. You don't know what you don't know. There is an energy that is invisible, that is all over you, that says, I've been there and I've done that. And now I'm here to hold an energy so this planet will do what it's supposed to do. Everyday life, showing compassion for others, generates light. Life force. Some of you are feeling that life force itself is a bit drained. It feels different. I want to tell you, dear ones, that even what you consider life force is changing. If you are designed to live 600 years, and you are, and you're living 70 or 80, and you are, that then is what you expect your life force should feel like. Let me ask, do any of you know what a 600-year-old human life force feels like? Well, some of you will, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And you will complain that your life force has changed. I want you to expect change. Some of you are going to absolutely give this planet something it's never seen before. Extended life, not 600 years, not yet, but beyond your years. And this is going to happen through innate, a change of life force itself. Dear Kryon, what does it mean? How are we going to feel? I want you to only look at this. Love and compassion. The more you have, the more energy you will have, and more life force will start to cooperate with your cellular structure. Your cells are readjusting to what you ask them to do. Now, I have just given you a lineage of some of the problems of old souls right now on the planet. And typically, human nature, again, you will look at it and say, what is wrong with me? How many of you are a bit dizzy? Oh, you didn't know I knew? Did you expect that you would just go right through this shift and have a cellular readjustment without some discomfort. Literally, cellular shift, growing new kinds of cells instead of copies of old ones will create disorientation. You're disoriented for just a little while, a year or so, or more. Is it worth it? Oh, yes. I want you to hang on. I want you to know that so much of what you're going through is actually good. It is developing light in an old body. You could be in your teens. You have an old body because you were born in the old energy. That's what I mean by old body. It's happening to humanity, especially the old souls. It's going to be confusing for leadership. They won't know really how to act sometimes. When I say some of the alliances are breaking down, there'll be actions and reactions between allies you didn't expect. Old versus new. Dear ones, I want you to watch for it, and I want you to remember who told you it was here. Do not despair on the things that you see. It is the new energy. There will be more. I will talk about it as it happens. But the big word and the title of this entire message, yet again, is congratulations. You did it. Now, what are you going to do next? I want you to leave different. You'll go and have a meal. You'll have a nice social time. Some of you will, some of you will not. There will be a few here that this has hit in a way that you're just going to want to sit and think about it, because that's why you came. Spirit met you this day, eyeball to eyeball, and told you what you needed to hear. I know who you are. Congratulations. After your meal, after your social, tonight before you go to bed, raise your hand and say, thank you, Spirit, for your love for me. Feel the tingling of the answer that goes through your body. That is Spirit saying, I know you. Congratulations. And so it is.
How about close your eyes and just take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. What a nice full day. Huh? So take another breath in and think about integrating everything. Everything that's come in today. How about one more breath? Find your body just gently resting on the chair, feet resting on the floor. And if you'd like, you turn your palms up and just let the energy in the room touch your palms. You might feel a little vibration there, feel a little opening. And let your spine just lengthen. See the vertebra stacked up, one on top of the other. From your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. And feel the connection that is there. And take another breath. And just allow the softness that's inside to make its way to the edges of your body. Just be in a place of openness. And as you go there, notice the feeling around your heart and the expansion that's there. And from that place, feel the love in the room. Feel the connection with the family that's here today with you. Your real family. No one is here by chance. It's the love that has drawn you here today. The entourage, the Kryon energy, the love in this community, the light in this sanctuary. And as we prepare ourselves for the Kryon message, let that love continue to open your heart and your understanding. For that is who you truly are.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Again, there are those who would say that the transformation is too quick. That who is my partner, who is the human being who now literally stands at my side watching, would not be able to accomplish this kind of a shift this quickly. What you are seeing is the new energy at work. You have to expect that some things change. There would be those, especially those who have been in what you would call metaphysics, nicknamed the New Age, for many, many years, the thought that God never changes. And therefore, the processes of God never change. And therefore, the things they are seeing today are somewhat inappropriate, for they do not have a confluence of energy of the old ways. So let me address that first. And what we say is this: God is never, ever going to change. The same yesterday, today, and forever. The benevolent creator of the universe. Family member. One who sings the song of love in your heart. Will never shift, will never stop, will never change. Stable in all ways. What has shifted is your relationship. As you change, as your DNA shifts, as your consciousness awakens, that which you do with spirit shifts with it. There are those understanding that what took 3 hours of meditation in the past can be accomplished immediately now. God did not change, you did. And with this change of you, commensurate is Gaia. Gaia changes, you change. You are intertwined. We've said it before, if the human being walks upon the planet, they affect the crystalline grid. The crystalline grid is not something that is physical in 3 dimension. It is an Akashic grid. That is to say, it remembers every footstep, every situation, every light worker, every match bearer. Collectively, this Akashic grid speaks to the cave of creation, affects that which is ancestral, backwards and forwards. That is to say, what you do today affects those who will follow. The vibration that you put into the planet by what you do now literally affects the consciousness of those coming. That was the lesson of last week. It's important that you understand that you change. If you're here as an old energy worker, I will say this, you are now seeing the evolution into the new energy worker. All the things that you did have paid off. Do not resent that which you've created. And do not criticize that which you've manifested. For today the earth is different because of what you did yesterday. This entire day has been filled with teaching that my partner has given around current events. And yet there are many who are listening and reading right now who are not part of that teaching. So we give enhancements to what he has said that may or may not be understood by those who would hear and read for the first time. So we will try to make it as succinct and summarize what we can. My partner spoke of the time fractals, a system of potentials that the ancients knew of and saw, that science is now starting to measure, that would indicate that time is not in a straight line at all, but is in a circle, and that the multidimensionality of time is starting to then be measured, understood, as much as it can be with a three-dimensional system. But the potentials of what is to come is now seen as something that the past has generated and that the future expected. And here it is. What the ancients told you about is indeed taking place at the moment, and that is to say that in alignment with that which you call the precession cycle of the planet, you also have that which is a potential of human consciousness shift. Again, Gaia is involved. Don't be surprised. Even the weather is involved, which we will speak of in a moment, with up to 3 kinds of cycles of the planet. Scientists are looking at the confluence of those 3 cycles, creating that which we have called the beginning of the water cycle, the refreshing of life on the planet yet again. It's all related to the time fractal. This is a 36-year window in astronomy of the precession cycle and the 26,000-year event, the middle of which is measured on the solstice, December 21, 2012. And here is your advice, yet again, celebrate this midpoint. Celebrate the fact that you are still here. Celebrate the fact that you are not in the midst of a world war. There are many who said you would be. Many prophets of old, looking at the same things we look at. Measuring the potentials of what might be, going to the other side of the veil and looking at the quantum soup of the potentials of humanity, all coming back with the same kinds of predictions, all centering around these years of the 36-year event called the Great Shift, and where you would be and what you would be doing even hundreds of years ago. Many prophets saw it coming. And they realized it could go in several directions, but the potentials at that point in time were against you surviving. This explains why there is so much prophecy that says it is the end. These indeed are the end times, it says. You look around the planet, it looks like it, doesn't it? And for those who were not here this day, I reiterate some things that my partner said in my behalf. The cycle is not what you think. This is the 5th one. Only 5 have occurred. You canceled the potential of world war. You have rebuilt the structure of the geopolitical system on the planet. You avoided the majority of dictators. You've joined together economies. And you're starting to unify instead of separate. For those within the sound of my voice or reading these pages, I tell you this, that the financial difficulties that are taking place right now in this country you call the United States is the result of pruning a system that some said was unprunable. And I echo that which my partner has said, that in a dynamic system where one affects another, you're going to have the entire system change because you decided to clean up one section. What are you going to do with it? The consciousness that follows in this country will help determine what happens next. And here it is, the acknowledgement that in the system that you have developed, consciousness plays a part. In economics, you've learned something called the accelerator. That is defined as the marginal propensity to consume. That is done by consumers. How do you feel about it? What I'm telling you is this, it's not going to get better as you sit in the corner and watch. It's going to get better as you participate. I'll leave it at that. Here's a system that depends upon the citizens at the grassroots level to create jobs for themselves. Yes, but Kryon, you haven't given us the potential. Oh, yes, I did. I just did. As we look into the quantum soup of what humans might do, and we look in here a year from now, 2 years from now, we see strength. We see solution. It does not happen fast. Not fast enough for you. That is what this time fractal has brought to you. Do you realize that the financial difficulties you're having now is a direct result of what the Mayans said could happen? All those hundreds of years ago, they knew what you were going to do. Do you have the courage to congratulate yourself for the recession? We've said it again. Do you have that which is possible? Can you stand on the hillside and say, thank God we're going through this? These are the shifts and the changes that the prophets did not see. We'll speak of that in just a moment as well. The weather will continue to change and shift. Some of it will appear to get worse. Record temperature shifts. Too much heat, too much cold. The heat is melting partially the ice caps on target, on schedule, creating a shift of weight on the crust, creating volcanoes, earthquakes, crust trauma. And here's the invitation yet again. Clear. It is a cycle, predictable, understandable, and we invite the scientists to go check it. Look at the ice cores. Look at the rings of the trees. Look where you have to look, and you will find this has happened before. Do not fear these things, which are cycles of the planet that occur naturally through Gaia's involvement with human consciousness. They are here yet again. They will refresh the oceans, create new paradigms of that which we say is the essence of why life exists and how it grows. All comes from the ocean, and you know that. It must be refreshed. That you may not have known. Life processes stagnate over hundreds of years, must be refreshed. The ice caps are the answer. Eventually, it will settle into a time of cooling. It has happened before. Humans have been here. Humans have survived. It is slow. You can get out of the way. There'll be more ice than you've ever seen before in your lifetime. Now, that is difficult to talk about. When you sit in an audience where outside it's very hot. It's a cooling cycle on the planet. The storms will be reactive to a cooling ocean. All the things that the meteorologists have seen in the past, the cycles are starting to change. All on schedule. Let me ask you a question. Does it make sense that God would refresh the life-producing cycle of this planet if you were all going to die in a few years? It would not. All of these things exist to feed you. All of these things exist for abundance in the ocean, for the eventuality over 2 more generations of a revitalized ocean with plenty of fish. Things that you didn't expect to come to life. Let this be a prediction that you will see these things, some of you in your lifetime, but your children will. And let some of them listen to this and read these things and realize that there is a system perhaps they did not understand or know about that is benevolent, that loves humanity, that is part of the creative energy of the universe. It's here. It's about how Spirit feels with you. It's about the love of God. Go through these shifts. One of the largest shifts in humanity is taking place in consciousness. And that's what we'll talk about next. Some have called it the Great Shift, and you're seeing that which we call the wild cards appear, and there's going to be more of them. I'll explain that in a moment. If you wish to accelerate the shift, you will get on with the obvious on how to create your electricity. Kryon, you sound like a repeating record. You need to hear it again. Have you not seen the folly of an extremely expensive steam engine called nuclear? It'll work, and you can make it semi-safe if you want to spend more money. But there are other ways of creating power. What about the steam engine using the heat of the planet, which is under your feet? If you were to spend a fraction of what you are spending on your nuclear machines, on the research to get the heat out of the ground, to boil the water, to create the plants, you would find you could do it. Using Gaia as it was designed to be used by humanity. And you don't have to boil water. And we have told you this before. There are exotic substances that will boil far, far cooler than water, creating the steam you need with the pistons and those things that are the machines that you use to create electricity. You don't have to be over a hotspot. You can do it almost anywhere. I challenge those of mechanical minds to get on with this, to show it can be done, and to look at the cost of it, for you're going to find it's less costly than nuclear, and there is no substance to eliminate. And if it gets destroyed by a tsunami, it's just water. No danger. And the second thing I'll repeat is the hundreds of thousands of tons of push-pull energy given to you by the oceans and the seas that you're not using, sitting there seemingly going to waste. Hydropower. It's all around you, and you're not using it. Now here's a hint to the scientists. Why do you continually overcomplicate everything? You want to make exotic propellers underwater to capture the tides, not even thinking of a simple solution as easy as a paddle wheel on top. Simplify your thinking. Create that which will work for you, which will turn the wheels over and over and over for an infinity of time, creating free electricity. All you have to do is build a machine. Let it turn. Doesn't have to be computer controlled. Doesn't have to be exotic. Won't have to have underwater materials with submersibles to serve it. Think simple. It's going to happen. It has to happen. It's the next step. There will be those who hear my voice and do not hear my voice, who never read this, who will do it. For it's going to happen intuitively all over the globe as part of a consciousness shift. Invention consciousness is not new. If you take a look at the greatest inventions you've ever had, some of the simplest things that you now take for granted, the invention of the telephone, of the radio, of the light bulb, of flight. Did you know that there were many inventors working on the same thing at the same time? Up to 5 or 6 simultaneously. They didn't even know each other. It's something that happens on the planet. When it's supposed to happen, the ideas are given. And the consciousness is whoever can reach it first wins the prize. So let it be that you would have an earth engine, ways to boil water inexpensively, without much digging, creating beautiful steam engines that will even rival the power that you can get from nuclear. Completely and totally safe. Using the ocean, finally, to move that which is on the surface, if you wish, which can be serviced on the surface, if you wish, without exotics, without the major expense that some feel is there, to power your cities. The great shift will create new inventions like that. The great shift will finally give you that which is the conversion of salt water to fresh through nanotechnology. We have given you that in the past. It is being done now. There are those who are getting these inventions. They take a while. Look for it. It will solve the drinking water problem on the planet completely. Real-time exchange. In goes salt water, out comes fresh water at the same velocity. You need these things. You need these things in order to live longer. You need these things to build your civilization stronger. It's what a peaceful earth is going to become. There'll be no arguments over power, over water. No wars are going to be fought over power, over water. As in the past, when you needed oil, there were the haves, the have-nots. There still are. And you're not going to need the oil as much. This is what new consciousness brings, and this is where it's going, I am telling you. There are wild cards coming your way. Wild card is described and defined as that which occurs on the planet, which everyone can see, that is normally geopolitical, which no one ever expected, ever. Example which we have spoken of in the past is the fall of one of the largest economies and systems you have ever witnessed, called the Soviet Union. Total and complete collapse almost overnight without war. The wild card. What you didn't expect. What's the greatest problem on earth right now when it comes to hatred? When it comes to old energy? Where is it? And you would all say it has to be in the Middle East. The last bastion of the oldest energy on the planet. A consciousness that literally festers and teaches hate. As soon as the children are born on either side, they learn who their enemy is, who did what to whom, and how they should get revenge. To this day it is taught. Except now, they're trying to force it down the minds of a new consciousness. A younger generation that does not see it anymore as the older generation does. A younger generation that is not believing it. Slowly they're rebelling against it, and you're seeing it in the news. Through the Middle East, they are starting to awaken. They want economies like you have. They want safety in their streets. They want schools and hospitals. They want good health care. And here's what my partner told you that I have said before. And they don't want war with Israel. That's not on their wish list. And now we'll give you the wild card yet again. You need to hear it yet again, and there will be those who hear it and read it who know exactly where I'm going with this. The reestablishment of the glory that was Persia. The dynamics of respect that was Persia. Do your history. See the influence that they used to have. And today, they're the pariah of the world. Now that is ripe for a wild card. For everybody thinks one thing is going to happen over there. And there are bombs all ready for it too. They may even use a few. Don't be shocked, for it might be the catalyst for the change. The country called Iran is overwhelmingly young. And the revolution that potentially will occur there will be more than just a revolution. There will be eventually a consensus. The best way to reestablish respect in the world, to open the borders for trade, to be seen as a benevolent Islamic nation, is for them to reestablish what the Prophet told them. The Prophet went into the cave, and the angel gave the information to unify the tribes of Arabia and give them the God of Israel. This is the way it occurred. This is the way it is written, even in their history. It is the love of God that Muhammad taught. It is what all of those who study the words know. It is time to rejuvenate that, to manifest that. And they have such an opportunity to be the ones to broker peace in Israel. To see the Palestinians as they do themselves, as Islamic brothers. To put forth a plan where within 20 years they won't remember that Israel was the enemy any more than you in the United States think of Japan as the enemy. It can change. And consciousness is what changes it. And trade and understanding. And yes, there will be a generation that doesn't get along, and they may not like each other, but they know how to plant the seeds of greatness. And that part of the world the wild card can take place, and you will see the beginning of the unsolvable becoming reality. Just like the Cold War went away overnight. There are those reading this right now in 20 years. I see you there. The potentials are unknown. The reality is unknown. But I can see you smiling. And knowing this is where it's going. Oh, dear one, this happens slowly. Sometimes you go backwards before you go forwards. Sometimes there's an unscheduled revolution. That's what humans do. There's always the old energy pushback. And there always will be, until it diminishes and diminishes and diminishes. And as my partner says, in 200 years, you may look back on who was here and say, that was barbaric. That's the potential of the planet. And I'll say it, if you should get there. If you should get there. It'll be because you have Pleiadian in your DNA. But this is what they taught, and this is what they gave you. And this is the benevolence of their teaching, which is part of you. They are your ancestors. And we have taught that before. See it at what it is and celebrate it daily. Imagine others in the other part of the universe that you can even see the light from know who you are. Have planted seeds of benevolence for you, all part of a universal scheme of solution. With free choice, you have elected to make massive changes in this called the Great Shift, against all odds, against all the prophecy, right up to the last minute, and here you are, sitting in it. I wouldn't tell you these things if they were not true, if they were not happening. Brian, you said that there's changes in our DNA. How come it cannot be seen by the scientists? And I will tell you the answer, yes, there is changes in your DNA. Massive changes. It's happening in the 90%, which is not then seeable, notatable, through chemistry. Information, that is to say data, which is in that part of the DNA which we call quantum, which is not really quantum, but what we would call a semi-state of quantumness that you haven't identified yet, that is in biology. Biology has its own kind of quantumness. All science wants to say it is part of the quantum state they see in atomic structure, which they study in the theory, which they call the string. And it isn't. It has its own kind of physics. Biology is different. True, it's all made up from atoms. But when they cluster together in a confluence of energy, which is life, they change their attributes. And yes, they're quantum. All is that to say that your DNA is changing in ways you cannot measure under the microscope. Can you see it in any other way? Look at the consciousness on earth. Look at the children that are coming in. Look at what is changing with the young people. Look at the way revolutions are being handled. There are 2 dictators about to fall, dear one. Perhaps even before you hear this channeling. That is how ripe this is. You're making shifts and changes on this planet quickly. No wonder some of you are so startled. There has never been a cleanup like this in the history of humanity. It comes with prices. The storms create death. Revolutions create death. And that is the human being. who is not intuitive enough to move where they should go. That is it, in a nutshell. If you're in touch with your intuition, you can feel it coming. You'll know what to do. If you don't believe anything that's going on here in this chair, you won't. There is so much to tell you about the potentials in these next years of what truly might happen and might exist. The wild cards are more than just one or two. You can accelerate all of these things through invention, through consciousness. You're starting to actually verify in your own reality the things we're teaching. If they don't work, then they're not valid, are they? So why not test them? Why not find out what happens when you get in touch with that part of yourself we have called the higher self? Do you change? Do those around you change? Can you manifest better? The answer is yes. There are those who sit in this audience that know that this is the reality. Manifestation starts to occur. What does this do? Your anxiety levels start to diminish. You're not afraid anymore. You start to wake up in thankfulness, not in fear. Isn't it about time? I know who's here. I know who's listening. I know who's reading. Isn't it about time when you open your eyes in the morning for the first time, you can say, thank God that I know who I am. Thank you, Spirit, for being my partner and my family. Thank God I'm on earth at this time in my life. Your DNA, as it shifts and changes, makes a difference to who follows. It's inherited. And it's not inherited necessarily by your own biology, and this is what we taught last week. And again, as a review, everything the light worker does goes into this planet in a way that is esoteric, energetic, literally quantum, multidimensional. It affects that which we call the cave of creation, which is the collection of souls that will be here, have been here, and are here. Therefore, that energy affects all of the ones to come. That means what you do here is planting seeds for your ancestors. Of all races and creeds, all colors. As far away as Africa. And you'll see the children start to change there too. Maybe not in your lifetime, but coming soon. Making a difference, making changes. Becoming more healthy. And someday, that's the next big wild card. Africa. To be one of the biggest economies the planet's ever seen. Outshining China. China has something we have told you about before that they cannot overcome easily, and that is history. Difficult for them to rewrite that which they know. For thousands of years, the Africans are starting from scratch. New consciousness children will do new consciousness things. They may even be one of the only continents in the world to be powered only by geothermal and ocean. Watch for this. It's coming. Did I say the end of the world is at hand? No. Did I say that the earth is going to be hit by a meteor and a comet so greatly that it's the end? No. Did I tell you that the masters of the past would all come back and sweep through the planet and pick souls and the rest would be left behind? No. Do you know why that's not going to happen? Let me tell you, because they're all back already. They're in the crystalline grid. That's the consciousness that you're emulating. That is the new energy here. That's what old souls are feeling. And that's why you're awakening and sitting in the chairs that you are and coming to these meetings. Unsolicited. Feeling you have to be here. To hear what you already know about what you're doing. These are the truths of the day. There's more I have not spoken of. Potentials all. Be wary of the soothsayers. For this energy that you see will create many issues that they will point to and say, it is the end. Or you wouldn't have this or that happen. Start understanding as things change, there may be some things that you don't want to happen that happen. The disappearance of species would be one. Both ocean and land. Their time is up. Let them go. Did you hear that? It is appropriate in the scheme of things. It is how Gaia works. And there will be new ones in their place. Bless them and let them go. Do not spend your time trying to save them, which are unsavable. You're going to see a change in the whales. They're going to start. Oh, be careful, partner. They carry your Akashic record. You knew that. They are the life system. They are the backup for the cave of creation. They are part of the balance where a living species must carry that which the earth carries. It is the bridge between that which is mammalian and that which is Gaia-esque. And if you are changing, and if Gaia changes, they will change. And let me tell you what that change will be. They're going to start to recognize you more. They're going to start to recognize you more. You're going to see how this works. In the future, I won't tell you anymore. You sit in a grand moment of change, of difficulty, of challenge, and a puzzle which changes daily. And we told you all about it 22 years ago. And here you sit at the cusp of the midpoint of the alignment. I celebrate the old souls in the room who are discovering the love of God in themselves. Now, earlier in the day, I gave an invitation to those who were not believers. And I said to you, what have you got to lose? I asked you to open your hearts for 5 hours. And if it didn't resound to you, you can close them up again. And so here's the invitation to close it up. Walk out unaffected. I dare you. For you've been touched today. Not by my partner, not by me, but the truth of who you are. The truth of who you are. Old soul, eternal, match bearer. You're part of the solution. Whether you think so or not, take these things and do with them as you will. And so it is that this day, the truth has been spoken, the potential's given. As this generation of old souls echoes that which was in Lemuria. So long ago, the plan to eventually create and populate this planet with countries at peace. Let it be. It will start here and end here. For you will come back and continue the process until it is complete. That is who is here. That is who is listening and who's reading. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Now, for those who have not heard this before, you'll say, well, it's just the man in the chair. Same voice, same man. So what's the deal? Why is this different from a moment ago? And did you notice he didn't prepare? And in an old energy, you would expect it. You expect the man to breathe heavily or face the right direction or do other things that will get him aligned with that which you would call the communication from the other side of the veil. You know, that's what it felt like then, even to us. I know who's here. I know who's listening. There has been a shift of energy on this planet, and it's dramatic. And the old soul, the one who's listening, the old soul is the one who feels it and knows it and discerns it. In an old energy, it was like you were in the other room. Alignment was necessary. And it was totally appropriate for you to align every cell in your body with a spiritual purpose, to oxygenate, perhaps even to spend time meditating before you would see a patient or anyone as a facilitator or channel in front of a group or any of these things. You had to, because the old energy sat on you like a blanket. And then when you were done, it like snapped back. You had to work it. About 6 years ago, I asked my partner if he was ready to go to the next step. I could see the disappointment in his mind because he thought there was no next step. Dear ones, there's always a next step. Humanity is not operating at 100%. And my partner is going to explain some of that this weekend. But you have made it past a marker that is more than significant. More than significant. This year and last year will mark the beginning of time for you. There'll come a place in history, I don't even want to say a time, so removed from this one that will look back on you today and they will see everything in front of 2013 as survival barbarism and everything beyond 2013 as the beginning of spiritual growth for the planet. If you want to take a look at what's happening on the planet right now, politically, you will see that which smacks of old energy on all sides. Kryon is not political. Politics is your karma. It's what you do. It is how you learn as groups. And you can see that it smacks with the old energy. One against the other, punishing each other for one's integrity and one non-integrity. They don't really even have a clue. This is the planet trying to figure out what works in a new energy and what does not. And there's going to be some surprises for both sides. And we have given you this information before. This is a new energy you sit in past 2012. And now here you are in 2014. I asked my partner if he was ready to go to the next level. And he said yes. And he said, what is it? And I said, it is time to integrate God and you. So that you don't just show up for a little while and experience a spiritual attribute and then put it away. So you don't just report to a building, dress up, worship for a while, come home, take off the clothes, and experience something else. It can no longer be that way. You can't prepare to have a different countenance when you meditate. How about that one? That you got to have a walking meditation for life. When you sit down to meditate, you're simply slowing down so you can concentrate on what you already have. And that is a new concept for an energy that will support it. Did you hear that? When you start to do this, dear ones, when you claim the Creator inside, a steering mechanism that comes from another place for your integrity, for your health, for your lifespan, for your cellular structure, and you marry to that, when you do, you're no longer positioning yourself or breathing correctly in order to heal or channel. You simply do it because you're always in that state of mind. It has another name. It's called mastery. And that is the study, is it not, of the day. Is how to claim that majesty at the same time you walk around in common life. When you leave the building after this weekend and you go back to whatever it is you do, whether it's at home or at work, and many of you call it survival, to pay the bills and do this or that, it has no attribute that's different than sitting here. Claim the same kinds of direction you will out there as you do in this place, as you meditate or you listen to the channeling. Present a balanced countenance. Talk to yourselves. Selves, not selves, selves. And in the process of doing this, start to understand something is actually happening. For the cells are listening. This is how you were designed. I would like to tell you something I've not really said before. The DNA of your body has a complement of your higher self as well as your human corporeal self. And they are integrated to the degree that you wish them to be integrated in. That means that as you change your countenance, your belief, your intent, your DNA starts to change with it. That means the percentage of DNA that is actually working will start to build to a higher percentage. That connection that you're missing. My partner will talk about that in the teaching and the lectures today and tomorrow. Your percentage of DNA for the first time in human history is open to increase. It could not before 2012. It could not. You had reached a pinnacle. And by the way, it was frustrating. We've been with you all the time. We've been with you when you said, why can't I do this? Why is not this working? What is wrong here? Why has this shifted? See, I know who's here. Why does it feel different? Have I lost it? That's for one of you. And the answer is no. You are being repositioned for an increase in your efficiency of your DNA, a spiritual handshake that is going to enhance everything you know and everything you do to a new level. Now, don't you think that's going to feel different? And the answer is yes. Honestly. Don't you think that's going to feel different? When you are in a place where there is an enhancement in everything you can do, where you don't have to prepare anymore, and where the insights will come faster and quicker, where somebody will make an appointment with you, facilitator, and when they make the appointment, you'll have a full knowledge of what they need. They won't even have to stand in front of you, and some of you already have it. That's different. This is an enhancement, and it's not going to go backwards unless you want it to. Did you hear that? So it's not something that's going to be stepped on by an old energy when you walk out of the healing chamber. I think you understand what I'm saying. I asked my partner, are you ready to go to the next level? And when he said yes, it took him 2 years. Now he doesn't prepare. Not even what you would say psychologically. He simply sits in the chair. Because in the past he used to metaphorically hold out his hand. And we would then take it, and the connection was there. And he would channel, and he would hold our hand metaphorically during the channeling. He didn't age during that time. He doesn't when he sits now. That's our promise to him. His response was, I think I'll stay and channel. It was a handhold. And when I told him to release the hand, it took him 2 years. And he said, what will I have instead? And I said, you're taking the training wheels off of your life. And we'll be with you 24/7. And you'll feel it. Instead of the crutch or the handhold, you'll know we're there. And this is what we are saying new energy on this planet is going to give you. If you're here and you're not a facilitator and you're just interested in spiritual things, there is no difference. For you still have to walk through life and it's difficult. And you still have to do all the things that everyone else has to do. You have to go to work and meet those at work who have no idea who you are or what you represent. In an old energy, dear ones, some of you were like hermits, like my partner. The less you said, the better, right? Get ready for that to change. It has to. Because people are going to come up to you and ask you, what do you have that I don't? They will see you're handling the problems of the planet gracefully, with integrity, and with peace. Without frustration, without sleeplessness, because you have gone to the next step. I think you understand what I'm saying. And the beauty of the news I'm giving you is that this energy is the one you have been waiting for, old soul. It's going to promote you, and it's not going to press against you. You are with the wind for the first time. Later today, my partner is going to give you a presentation on what I will call the fast-track helpers of the planet, which we call the grids. All here in support of what you're doing in ways you have no idea of. The planet supports you in this. We support you. You passed this marker. That is amazing. And now, for the first time, the old souls of this planet will take their power. That is the message, and will be, till my partner's last breath. And it's a good one, isn't it? Isn't it? It is. Now, I want you to manifest this. You go and discuss it. Well, that was interesting what Kryon said. No, it's not interesting. It's a mandate for action. I sit in front of old souls, this great land, and I said, let the beauty of God in you match the beauty of the topography here. Let the beauty of God in you be seen by other human beings. Let it take their breath away when they do. That is the mandate. And so it is. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. And the message to follow is exactly what my partner thought it would be. There is a protocol that I work with. If you could even call me and I. And that protocol is with my partner, where he gets the opportunity to enhance a message that he hears for the first time in one place. And he would be hesitant to ever repeat a channeling. Hesitant if he heard it coming again in the way that it had been given before. Because in his mind it always has to be original. And so in order to enhance the instructions for him, we stopped the recorder the first time around. And now we give the message again. And those who have heard the message that are hearing this one will recognize it. The structure is the same. The verbiage, very similar. Dear human beings, you want to singularize everything that is. You have a tendency to take that which you are in your dimensionality and place it upon God. And it's not surprising, and there's no judgment. It's all you have, and your reality is your reality. And therefore, you place upon God that which you know, not that which you don't know. But now it is up to me to give this explanation to you, again, about the human soul, which is not really human at all. Let me state this, that the creative source of the universe always was and always will be. That which you call the creative source, which you have labeled God, or which you have labeled Spirit, is what we are talking about now. And you might say that it is comprised of pieces of all that is. And you'd be right. And even before this universe existed, it was there. It is responsible for all that exists anywhere, including the universes that existed that are before yours and coexistent with yours now, that you know nothing about. This is the creative source. And that particular source that you call God has a soup of energy that is what you would best call a quantum soup. It is beyond your physics. It is beyond quantum physics. It is in a realm all by itself, which is God. It is spectacular and beautiful. And you were there. You were there because you, the very core of you, is part of God. I want you to really get this straight. Can you imagine being here? Literally and able to see any part of your beautiful universe, the very creation itself. To exist in front of a supernova and watch it work and explode, and the light that existed from it, all knowing it was part of natural physics, part of the creating process, the cycles of energy. There would be no harm come to you. You would be able to see and hear everything that is seeable or hearable in any dimension that exists. Your senses would be so grand and so great, you would know of things in great distances, as though they were happening all at once around you, and you would be able to separate anything, no matter where it was, and even hold an image of it. The creative source is that way. Everything that you can imagine, which is God, is bigger than you can imagine. And you were there. We only have the word you. And I'm not talking about the human you. And you know that. You are part of me. I am part of you. This is the hardest thing we will ever teach. We'll continue to teach it. The linear mind doesn't understand it. And that is also on purpose. If you could see who you were, you wouldn't stick around being who you are. It's hidden from you. Some of the teaching in the New Energy is an expansive consciousness where you are seeing more of who you are. And in that expansive consciousness, it's not just about discovery of a new biology or new inventions. It's a realization of the who when it comes to that which is in you. Imbued in every piece, every molecule of DNA, imbued in there is the Creator. It's in a way you cannot itemize, and you cannot count it. And neither can you count souls on the planet because they're not singular. The soup, which is God, becomes your soul. And this is the hard part. And before I'm done today, if you think this is confusing, just wait. Because what I have to reveal is not something that you can cognize easily. And it's not something that you are really ready to understand fully. But I want to tell you, even in your confusion, I want you to see the grandness of what is here. The grand thing is that you are part of the creative source. When the restraints of humanism are lifted from you, dear human being, you are God. And you are not a part of God. You are God. Because the soup of God does not compartmentalize itself and slip into human bodies with names and personalities. And that is what I want to tell you. Number one, the souls that are in you are not singular, they are part of the whole. That's easy to say, but hard to grasp. When you look at another human being and you give them the honoring of greeting the God inside, which you have often said, Namaste. You greet the God in them that is the God in you. Did you ever think they're the same soul? No. You have your soul, they have theirs. That's what you think. And it's the best you can do. Because if you combine them together, there are problems with your mind. The mind that is linear and wants your soul to be yours alone will keep you from understanding this message. And what I'm going to tell you is that when you cross the bridge of understanding, you'll understand that it amplifies things. It does not change them and subtract in their magnificence. There is no such thing as a singular soul. It is always connected to the whole. The soup of God is always in a soup. You might call it a collective if you wish. And it does not separate itself. Pieces and parts of it, if you wish to call it that, inhabit the human body and consciousness, and you identify it as your soul. My partner's teaching this year will be about the 9 attributes of the human being, and 3 of those are the soul group. And he talks about the core. And that is what you feel when you get into a deep meditative state. You touch the core, and you think it's you. It isn't. It's everybody. And that's why it is so magnificent. I don't want you to think this is a foreign entity inside you. It is you. But you are God. The only linear thing is that humans live in 3D and never see the connection. And here's what it means. Now, my partner, we're going to be more succinct this time than we were last. And we will not break out into other teachings as we did before. I was speaking to my partner who sits in the chair about what is coming that might be different than what was given before. I'm going to break some paradigms that you've been taught. The human soul is creator. It does not belong to humans. It is part of creation that is in you. Therefore, there is no such thing as a soul in a learning capacity. Souls don't learn. Humans do. And yet you are told sometimes that they are specific groups of souls. And that some are more, what you'd say, wise than others. My partner uses the word old soul. You're all old. It's just that some of you have been humans longer than others. Old soul doesn't even make sense, because there is no time of a soul. Always was, always will be. part of God. And then that is not a correct label, old soul. But humans will continue to use it because it means something different than what it is. There's no such thing as souls that are in a learning capacity to be better souls, going to some place else where they would be graduate souls. This is all in the purview of the mind of the human being who is attached to human things. Humans learn, humans graduate. Human moves from one level to another. Souls do not, dear one. And so get used to this. What if I told you? Your soul is identical in its magnificence to every soul on this planet. What's the worst human being you can think of? In history, alive now? Worst one has the same soul you do. And what should that tell you about free choice? It tells you that this specific, magnificent piece of God is available at full strength, really, to any human by free choice who wishes to look there. We gave you a channel once before that said what the rules were of spirit was that we cannot intervene with free choice. We can watch you make the mistakes. We can watch you turn your back upon what is inside you that's magnificent. We can watch you develop evil. And we can't do anything. It has to be you. It has to be that which is human that makes the choice. Those who have been humans longer on this planet make better choices because they are aware of the God inside at some level. That's just one attribute that I want to demystify how this works. This one is similar. There is no advancement of souls. You should know this. There is this feeling that human beings have that you start as an animal and graduate to a human. And that somehow the soul goes through certain incarnations where it is a lesser human being or perhaps in an animal in order to graduate to an old soul. Any of these things, you just name them, they're all around. That's what humans do. They make levels of advancement and importance. And they place them upon God and even teach them. That diminishes the creative source. Kryon, you mean the animals don't have souls? I didn't say that. They have a different kind of what you call soul, and yes, it reincarnates, and we have told you that before, but it never crosses the barrier of animal to human, ever. It's precious and it's sacred what is inside you, human being. It belongs to your DNA and it's part of a plan. It didn't start as an animal. There are those who actually think that the smaller the animal, the lower the soul. You start as a hamster, you become a dolphin someday, and then you're a human. By the way, that's taught in places. I want to tell you, that's not the way of it at all. It just isn't. And so there is no learning, there is no levels of advancement, and there's no hierarchy. Wait a minute, Kryon, what about archangels and lesser angels? We've given that discussion before. It's only in your thinking where you put them and what you name them. That is a human attribute. It is not God. There's no management system or flow charts with God. There is no hierarchy of who is in charge of whom or what with God. It is a system that is known by all. It is beautiful and it is sacred and it is perfect. There are those scientists who have looked out into the universe and they're starting to realize it could not have been made by accident. And they are struggling with this because it is outside of the reality they have of evolution being chance. Well, it isn't. It's designed. And if you want to know why this galaxy was designed the way it is, I will tell you, it's so you could sit on this earth and hear these words. It's all about you. It really is. Everything revolves around the human being on this planet, and the animals know it at some levels. They all know it. Getting you to realize it has been slow. And now that is the task, is it not? To understand that the system supports you. You are not bucking the system. When you go outside and you look at the things you don't think you can control, the things that happen to you, the weather and all the things that you say you're just bounced around from place to place, all of them are invitations for you to change. Perhaps you know humans who have had very unfortunate lives and everything bad has happened to them. At every single juncture, dear human being, that particular human had a grand opportunity to be brought to zero and take the hand of God. And instead of turning their backs, to actually enhance their lives and understand. And they either did or they didn't. And this is the free choice. To some of you, you look at life and say, well, it doesn't make sense to me because it seems cruel, or this or that has happened to them or me. Not understanding, these have all been synchronistic turning point possibilities and potentials. And some will wallow in the grief of them, and some will take the hand of God and move forward. That are decision points we give humanity over and over, and it's not always through grief. Sometimes it's through joy and celebration. Depends upon who you are, where you've been. Old soul, you see, even I will use the word. Your soul is forever. It's unchangeable. It's perfect. It's beautiful. What do you call it? Your higher self. That's a good one. That is the self that vibrates higher than you do. The part of God. But you still want it to have your name, don't you? Did you know that the soul has no personality? There's no attributes of humanism at all in the soul. Oh, if I could really give you the picture. I would love you to see it. The perfection of the universe that you share with every other human being on the planet. Do you know what increased human consciousness really is? It's building the bridge to connectivity. When you start to understand that really you're all the same. My partner has spoken about the evolution of religion on the planet Earth. And the thing that to expect, that we have asked you again to look for, is how religion, organized religion, will shift. The question has arisen, will it survive? And the answer is yes. We have told you before, it doesn't matter how humans find God. It really doesn't matter. And there will be levels of human knowledge because of the levels of human understanding about who God is. Therefore, it's important that all of the processes remain so that the human beings just starting out can go through whatever process they wish to and have their hands held while they do it by a master. So what about organized religion, and how is it going to change? It's going to start seeing connectivity, and this is what we teach. There's going to be an understanding and a revelation, perhaps even a return to the original teachings that they will then look at, which honors all the other belief systems. When the religions of this planet join together and realize they are unique and they are okay to worship the way they wish to, and at the same time acknowledge the others' rights to worship the way they want to, you will see an expansion on this planet of spiritual work and knowledge and understanding and compassion. But as long as they separate into groups that say, we know how to worship the one God better than you know how to worship the one God, you're in trouble. And you knew that, didn't you? Religion is not going to diminish or go away. It's going to get bigger, especially when it is one that is what I will call compassionate to all the others. Isn't it interesting, on your planet, there is a full realization of a monotheistic God, one God. And most of the earth believe even in the afterlife. And yet, you segment yourself into thousands of pieces deciding who is right to worship the one God. That is what will change. It's about connectivity. And what I'm about to give you will challenge your perception of connectivity. We bring up the subject next, and finally, about soul sharing. You're not going to like this, dear ones, because it breaks the paradigm of your traditional thought. We'll start easy. We'll start simple, and then we'll get hard. Soul sharing. Have you heard of a walk-in? All right, let's talk about what it is. What you think it is, what you're taught it is, the problems of logic and singularity that exist. Here is what you're often told. A human being will pass and come back. But in order to come back quickly and move over the growing up period, in order to accomplish things quicker, they will soul share at approximately the age of 8 to 13 with another soul that is grown up already. That's the walk-in. And so now you have two souls, supposedly, in one body. Follow me so far? So now the walk-in has an attribute that you have to ask about, and many have. All right, what happens to the first soul? Does it take a subservient position? If the name is Sally and the second soul comes in, and that was Henry, it's confusing. What does Henry think about it, being in another gender with Sally? Can they exist together? Does one take a back seat? Does one go forward? Does one simply give up and go back? What is the process of this? And human beings that are esoteric wring their hands and have discussions and say, how can this be? And what do we make of it? And we sit by and we look at it and we go, what are you talking about? You have a 3D argument going on, and all of the machinations of your logic puzzles have been created by you. Because Henry and Sally are just fine with it all. You see, what you don't know and what you haven't figured out, there aren't two souls in that body. There's just one called God. The Henry and the Sally, that's what you made of it. One soul joining another and soul sharing is like God with God. It's you with you. You just got bigger. There will be arguments. Well, what attributes of the Akash belong to Sally? And what attributes of the Akash belong to Henry? What if I told you they combined them? What if I told you things just got bigger with the walk-in? Would that be all right? What if I told you the whole purpose of the walk-in is combined Akash? So that the experiences of many lifetimes, apart from what you think is singular in your past lives, can combine into another human being as one. Now that's confusing. You see, it's bigger than you think. There are no puzzles to figure out with the majesty of God. A walk-in, it's very common, especially with an old soul passing and coming back quickly into one who has already grown. It is a system of benevolence, of understanding, a fast-tracking system that allows things to happen better than they would have otherwise, and taking less time. And by the way, it's often in a family. Now this is going to get worse if you're confused already. The next subject, soulmates. It's not what you think. One person meets another person, and they have a connection. And it doesn't matter, it's outside of romance, although that's there too, to really confuse things. It may be a past life as a brother or sister, mother, dad, but they know the person. They think like the person. They can have conversations and looking at each other's eyes and just being amazed. They must have spent lifetimes together in order to have this similarity of thought and thinking, of ideas, passions. There's an attraction to be with that person. Just stay with that person, because they represent something that is so special, and you call it soulmate. Let me tell you, what if I told you you just met yourself? I told you it'd get spooky. What if soul sharing is something where you met a piece of yourself in another human being? And if I told you that, will you walk out of the room and say, this is not for me, this can't be for me? I want to tell you, I want you to use your discernment. If God is not singular, and you are a piece of the whole, and everybody is in you, and you are in everybody else, why is that so spooky? That you would see a piece of yourself in another human being, because that's the way soul sharing works. It's hard to describe, because you want to singularize it. Instead of seeing the glory of God in that person, you're seeing you in them, because you have been together in one human body in the past. That's what a soulmate is. No wonder you're attracted to them, and they're attracted to you. Soul sharing cannot be explained satisfactorily to any single-digit dimensional human being. And everything that I'm doing now will simply complicate it. Let me tell you the most complicated one. And then I want to give you an example. And after that, we'll close. I have told you that there is a system of reincarnation that honors the family. And that at the very least, the system has one generation skipped for reincarnation within a family. Most of the time, it's 2 generations, but often it's every other generation. And this allows for new souls coming in to learn, and for old souls to be their children and their parents, if you see what I'm saying, and vice versa. It mixes it up, and it's helpful for both. For instance, old soul, your children are probably not, but your grandchildren are. You see where this is going? Skipping every other generation. And you know this is true. For in a generality, we will say, you know your children best, but when your grandchildren came in, you saw something in them that you recognized. Now, I want to make this so clear, and I cannot. This is very, very understandable to you, and it's fine as long as the grandparents are dead. But if they're alive, now there's a problem. Because I've just told you that your grandchildren could be you. What do you think of that? You look in their eyes and you know what's in there, don't you? There's a connection, and they're on to you. They know that you're going to give them everything they want. Because they are you and you are them. The peace of God you have shared is not a singular soul with your name on it or their name on it. Pieces of you are in them. And it's not just chemistry. We'll talk about that tomorrow night. To complicate all of this, I'll talk about inheritance that is different between Akashic and chemical. Really, to mix it all up. So who are you? Who are you? Is it possible? The more you get to know each other, the more you see the same God in all of you. The connectivity is what solves the problems of human variety, of you not getting along. There'll come a day, dear ones, if you follow the same progressions of those before you on other planets who have gone through this before, there'll come a time when you acknowledge the similar God in all of you first, and then the personality differences second. This is a secret to peace on earth. Looking at the other one and knowing their desires are the same as yours. That it's compassion, not trickery. It's generosity and not bullying. And you start to look at what creates what it creates in personalities differently and aside from the God inside. You'll see their degree of awakening and help them to do what you've done through what you can show them in your graciousness and in your maturity in how you live. That's the only vehicle of teaching other human beings about God that we have to give you. Let me give you a little story, and then we close. I want to talk about Evelyn, the everlasting tree. You know, parables don't make a lot of sense. Because they are allegories, you have to forgive some of the 3D parts. And so Evelyn doesn't really exist in nature in the same way. But it's a story. And it's close enough to what nature does so that you will understand. Evelyn. Evelyn had an essence about her as a tree. The essence of Gaia was there, and she knew she was Evelyn. She had the consciousness of a grand plant that she was. Her purpose, her sole purpose, was to grow as much as she could and to give oxygen to the planet for humanity. Evelyn put down roots, as trees do as they grow, and she could feel her roots go down. And they would then absorb those things which she needed for her growth. The resources of the dirt of the earth were in her roots. And she grew taller. As she grew taller, her roots then spread out more in order to anchor the size that she was and the majesty she represented in her forest. Now, Evelyn wasn't really aware of all of the roots. There were so many of them over time. But one in particular found its way back to the surface, a great distance from her, many meters, and sprouted. And this sprout then became a tree. And this little sprout started growing just like Evelyn had. And it had a name. Martha. Now here is Evelyn watching Martha grow up. Martha grew from Evelyn's root. Now Martha, over a period of time, put down some roots, and the same thing happened with her. In the same time, Evelyn had other sprouts going on in the other direction. They were Evelyn's roots, sprouting as other trees with other names. You see where I'm going with this? Eventually we have a forest, and all the roots are connected. They're all connected. The life force of the nutrients of the planet are surging through all of them, there is no beginning or end of any root. They're all connected to each other. Now, I want to interview Evelyn. Evelyn, who are you? As you look around the forest, are you Evelyn? Or are you also Martha and George, Sally? Who are you? And Evelyn would have to stand tall and say, I am all of them, and they are all of me. Because our roots are combined together from the same source. I want you to look at that. And I want you to understand that it is the metaphor of who you are. In nature, you look at these kinds of things and you say, how unique. You don't see it as you do yourselves, with individual personalities, lives to live, or you walk around. But it's true. Connectivity and the realization of it and the oneness that is all is going to be the salvation of humanity. But it has to start, literally start, with you understanding that the soul inside you is bigger than anything you ever thought. Now, I told you a moment ago the soul has no personality. Not like you think. But it does have an attribute. It has perfection, love, benevolence. That's what you feel. The hand of the soul, which is God, is always open to you. Always. From the moment you're born, the invitation is to discover who you are, to take that hand and move into a position where you can change the planet. And old soul, you've lived long enough to come to this point and hear this message. Well, you know I'm right. Because this is the time to take that hand. It's got to be with your free choice, with your intent, and with your understanding. That's what I want to do. Don't do anything because you should. Or because you came to a meeting and heard a channel that may have moved you. Now you should do something. Don't do that. I want you to sit by yourself alone in a chair and ask your body, is there more? And it will shiver in response. And the first thing it's going to say is, what took you so long to ask? And it'll say, yes. And that is the beginning of discovery. My partner did that. He did it 23 years ago. He started with himself. He was afraid. What energy is talking through me? How could it do this? Is it the devil? All of the things that linear minds go through tradition and training and misinformation was there. All of it. Until he got to a place of pure emotion where he wept with the understanding that he was more than he thought. And it led him right to the source. That's the invitation, dear one, of every single human being on the planet. If you relax and talk to that which is your innate in your body and let it help guide you to the truth, you'll get it. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to another human being. I want you to start listening to you. Start asking yourselves and yourselves what it is you need to know. And it'll tell you. Is this channeling real or is it not? Use your discretion and your discernment and all the words you want. Discern the energy of the day. My partner steps aside for this and now he comes back in a moment. All this time to give you a message of love coming from that source, which is you. You ought to recognize this voice. Not the human voice, the other one that's been talking to you in the third language all this time. Whispering, listen, listen, listen. This is what you came for. It really is. Dear old soul, you are the hope of the planet. Whoever is listening to this and cognizes the truth of it, you'll know this is your time. Get on with it. And so it is.